Welcome to Old Blokes Love Sneakers Too, a podcast focused around shoes and a love for them, but through the viewpoints of older dudes who think they know what they're talking about, but usually don't. For more context, listen to our episode 0. I'm your host, Paul Ramondetta, and today I'm joined by Joel Cilia and Luke Gilbert. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Welcome to Old Blokes Love Sneakers Too, episode 1. Gentlemen, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you.
So today we got a couple of guests. So today's guests are Luke Gilbert. How are you, Lukey?
I'm really good. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And our other esteemed panelist for our first episode is Joel Cilia.
Hey, Paul. Good to be here.
Thank you, sir. Hey, so what we're going to do today is we're looking at a podcast around old blokes talking about sneakers. It's going to be a bit weird. It's going to be a bit wacky. We're all a bit older than everybody else who loves sneakers. So what we're looking today is you'll hear our opinions. The way we set up our podcast is we've got a few sections where we'll talk about different things in particular. We'll have a look at the way we go and we'll have a general banter. Don't expect us to know everything. We don't admit to that yet. Luke probably was talking about it before. He thinks he knows everything, so we're going to try and test him out. That's probably a good lead in, Luke. So I think we're going to talk about our guests. So that's our first segment today is our guests. We're going to talk a bit about you guys and understand who you are. You know, the question I always get asked, Luke, and I'm going to start with you, is how many pairs do you own?
At last count, and I didn't count, but I think it's probably about 80 or 90. It's somewhere around that. I had to have someone move out so I could find space for him. So, yeah.
How is that child of yours that's now on the streets? They're doing well?
Look, they after the good thing about him is he has the same size as me. So his Jordan 6 Gatorades are still sitting here brand new on my shelf. So no big deal.
Fantastic. What about you, Joel? Where are you up to? You up with the 80s as well?
I'm nowhere near that. I've got 17 pairs of shoes, but I can say they're all quality.
So my producer's looking at me going, why have we got Joel here? And I'll tell you why. Joel's out. When I said Joel got 80s, he's still stuck in the 80s. Joel's going to be our Jordan everything. He's going to be our Jordan man. He loves his Jordan. I actually did a count before I did a count just before we started. I was counting them all over the place. And I realised I've got about 63 in the house. But then I realised I've got about 7 pairs sitting at work, which I just realised are under my desk. So I'm going to play. I was going to say 69, but we won't go that. I'm just going to say 70 today. Hey, so the other question we're going to ask our guests is, what type of sneakers? So what sort of sneakers have you got, Luke? Do you have any specifics?
No, I've got player editions because I'd like to scoop up player editions. So if I see a player edition, I'll grab it. I've got loads and loads of just casuals like Clydes and different sorts of like shell toes and all sorts of different things like that that I never wear. And most of the stuff that I get now is all laceless stuff. All the NMD Adidas's, another pair of Nikes I picked up on the weekend, and even a set of Balenciaga's Speedies that I grabbed. And once you go laceless, like you don't want to see laces again because it's like.
Oh, I thought you were going laceless because you couldn't bend down anymore, mate. It was like I just can't put the laces up.
That's it though. It's like. I'm in the world of comfort, and that's when you know if you are that lazy that you don't want to wear a pair of sneakers, then you got problems.
That is an old man choice. That is.
That's
for
perfect.
Sure.
When you start cutting the back off them so you can slide them in, mate, we know you're officially they're going to be old, right?
That's it.
What about you, Joel? How are you looking at your sneakers? Do you look at them specifics?
So I've got mostly basketball shoes. Mine are 90s, all of them Nike, with the exception of one pair of Adidas Stan Smith. I've got a range of Jordans. The early ones are my favourites, 3s and 4s.
That's going to be a regular theme for you, isn't it? Jordans are my favourites. Jordans are my favourites.
Well, it's my background, and it's the memories, Good times.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely what we'll get to. But hey, I'm OCD with mine. I've got running runners that I only run in. They don't do anything else. They only run, right? Then I've got casual ones that I don't wear in. I even have a couple of pairs at the moment that I'm running where they're my movie pairs, right? So I've got the Have a Nike Days that I only wear when going out to the movies. It's weird, I know, but That's the way I like mine. Mine are very segmented. You know, Max is giving me the hey, lots of money here. I'm like, no, these are over years. You know, us old blokes, we have a lot of time on our hands. I've got runners older than my son, and he's 20, so that's a bit scary.
That's very interesting about the old sneakers, because I've had a lot of shoes, a lot of CP3s and stuff going back to his earlier stuff. Now, how do you keep your old shoes together?
Good question.
Like if you got Iversons and things like that, you can't use them for their purpose because the glue goes hard, and then if you do anything but look at them, they tend to explode. So what do you do about that?
So you've got the limited edition stuff, right? I've got the wear and tear every day. I had a pair. So these are a pair of casual Nikes, they were called in the day, and they were grey, right? They were this old school pair. They were 22 years old about 6 months ago. I ended up throwing them out, but they were in good condition. I think I don't wear mine a lot. That's the other thing I noticed with mine. I have high rotation on stuff. We've got storage under our bed, and I reckon there's about 30 pairs that sit under there, and I just rotate them through. Like you said, I had one the other day. I put my foot into one, and I put it through the front because of the glue. The glue was sort of, all crusty. So I think that's the other thing I was saying is you've got to wear them sometimes. So you don't want to hold them. So anyway, I'm feeling bad now. I'm feeling a bit guilty. I've got too many pairs of shoes, and I'm wrecking them when I wear them once.
I'm feeling a little bit undercooked. I might have to jump online and buy.
Are you on eBay at the moment? Are you? I think I saw you on eBay bidding on the same pair of shoes I was after.
That's what I'm doing right now.
It's quality. It's quality over quantity. I could ditch 70 pairs of my shoes and I wouldn't miss them. You know, and like it's just I just try to ease the pain every weekend. If I have to go shopping with my wife for 6 hours, then I gotta get something out of it. You know what I'm saying? So.
Hey, that's a good lead in. What's that last pair you brought, Luke? Tell us about that last pair you brought.
All right. Well, we had an impromptu, and keep in mind, we're trying to be responsible adults, and we recently made a big life purchase and did some property things, and that's so out of character for us, and we tend to like to shop. She's likes to collect things as well, and but we ended up at one of the outlets, as we do, and I picked up a pair of Westbrooks, the Jordan Why Not Zeros, and another pair of Nike Rise React Flyknits, which are laceless, and they're super supportive too. So I'm even going to try. I've got a game on Sunday. I'm going to try and wear those in the game, which is a no-no for laceless shoes. So we'll see how that works out. But the Westbrooks, they wouldn't be my first choice, but when you in Brisbane, they have loads of stock, they have loads of sales, and I'm thinking the Westbrooks cost me $72 for a PE. So it's you can't really say no to that. So that's really what you got to do. They got a lot of basic stuff at the outlets, a lot of stuff that's made just for the outlets that people get tripped up on, but in between that, there's lots of gems, and we try to dig them out. And when they're around, I'll get them regardless. They have so many of the shoes that I don't like that everybody else foams. They have so many foams there on the weekend. You know, people go nuts for foams. They still get great value. They had like
the foam is a really big name, isn't it, at the moment?
It's huge. It's huge, and you can get foams for like $130. You could probably buy every pair there and sell them again, but you got to wear foams, and it's hard to get your foot in. They're hard, they're heavy. If I bought them, I'd never wear them, so I don't buy them.
Not yet, anyway. You will buy them when they become laceless, right? As soon as they're laceless, you're all right.
As soon as they're laceless.
Joel, what about your last pair? I reckon it's about 1990 for you. Is that the last Bulls championship? No?
It's funny for me because when I was playing basketball when I was young, I had a pair of 89 Nikes. So Nike Air Flight 89s, and they were these black and white things that I just absolutely loved, but I just destroyed them. And I didn't realize that they were really similar to the Air Jordan 4s until, I started getting more involved in it and purchasing, more frequently and more recently. So I've realized that the Jordan 4s are my thing now because they remind me of that time when I had those shoes. So I've just bought my third pair of Air Jordan 4s because I recognize this online shop, which I'll tell you about in a minute, that has replacement boxes where you get the shoes at a discount price and fantastic deals and all that kind of stuff. So I picked up a pair of Air Jordan 4 Levi's collaboration with Levi's. With the
what position does he play, mate? What position does Levi play?
Oh, nice! I see what you're doing there, Paul. There, Paul. Yeah,
that's coming back on me. I know you do it to me all the time.
Right.
So I want to get him first.
I'm just going to wear it.
Is that
you should? I like it.
Are they new? Is that new old stock, or are they second hand, or how do you acquire something like that?
No, they're new. But if you can find a good website, which I've been able to, you can often get the shoes that are selling at pretty exorbitant prices for half the price because they're in a replacement box or a damaged box or something like that. Which, I want to keep the box. I'm kind of into that, but it doesn't have to come out of the cupboard, so no one has to know.
Now that's a good segue into the box thing. So quick survey, who's doing the box? Because I in my previous life I used to travel a real lot and always come back with shoes, and the box is something that just couldn't make it. I had to make a decision. It's the box or the shoes. So the shoes are coming back. And then once I didn't have a lot of boxes, I just went, well, I'm going boxless now. So I'm just tossing boxes. And now that I'm doing a lot of outlets, they don't have it. They come with no lid anyway. So it's like, okay, catch ya. So it's the box isn't really part of it. I don't know if the box is the best place to keep them either. I'm not sure if that has a negative effect on their long standing, because you see collectors, they don't keep them in the box.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. There's a whole lot of now multi-purpose ways of storing shoes. I think I've got a couple in boxes. I have, a couple of my older pairs that I think are like my Durants. I just kept the box. It was a gold box and I liked it. My Have a Nike Days, I've got, obviously the Have a Nike Day has a smiley face on it. So the box has a smiley face on a black Nike. So they're the ones I keep.
Worth keeping. Yeah.
So I'm collecting boxes. Maybe I'm a bit box collector now as well. It's a bit weird. But I reckon that's it. We've actually talked about this. That'll be one of our segments in one of our later episodes, is how do you keep them and how do you clean them. So we might park that because we're way off track as always. The producer's already looking at me to go on his watch, so we need to keep moving. Hey, I'll just wrap up with my favourite pair. Actually, not my favourite pair. The last pair I've brought is those Have a Nike Days. I really do love them. They're all white. They've got the beautiful little face on the side. I just wear them out to the movies every time. And I think we're going more to the movies because I've got the runners. So I think they were a good buy too. They had a limited edition in the city. I think they had 10 pairs. And I rang them and I got the lucky last pair, which was 11.5, which is me. So I got those and they were like only $150. They were really good, actually, really good value. And they wear really well, except they're, as you guys know, a white pair is any rain, anything that might be a little bit of dirt, I'm out of the way of that. I'm taking them off. I'm carrying them.
And those are Air Forces though, right? Those are Air Force Ones.
Air Force Have a Nike Days, yeah. So they're Air Force Ones.
And again,
Air Force Ones.
No, and the sidetrack thing with this is they released Lunar Forces. Are you guys familiar? It's a difference. So a Lunar Force is like a lightweight of Air Force. So then if you start wearing Lunar Forces, then you turn around, you're like, I'm not buying any more Air Forces because these Lunar Forces are way too easy to live with. So
there's a bit of a comfort theme I'm picking up.
I know, Luke.
Yeah, you get it.
You'll be okay, mate.
I don't lace the shoes.
I have to reach down to my feet, that sort of thing.
I don't lace the shoes.
All right. I think we've already touched on, so our second segment is, what's this love that we've got, these old blokes talking about sneakers. I think we're sort of halfway into that. A couple of things we want to talk about is, we've started this, is, what makes that good shoe? I think we already know what yours is, Luke. We think it's comfort, right?
Yeah. Less is more.
Less is more.
Less is more. A decent amount of width. I got a wide foot, so all the back in the day it was Garnets, early KDs, most of the Adidas stuff. I really couldn't even get my foot in. Like a lot of the Jordans with the new lace system, like the way they're secure.
That's
can't get my foot in. Like if I can't get it in, then I'm not going to be able to wear those shoes. So I'd sort of keep them meticulously laced. I do a straight lace. Okay, and then I lace them, but then I can get my foot in and it stays on. So I'm able to just keep them looking like they're on the shelf, but they're on my feet. So that's how I try to go. But like Air Forces, like my wife is a fan, and my my two sons have got loads of Air Forces, but ever since they, like I said, they brought out the light version with the Lunas and the mids and the highs and the lows and everything, and I've got loads of different pairs of I got a lot of those shoes, and it's just a comfort thing. Like you can, if you know what the day holds. Like you're planning your trip, and it's like, oh, could there be bad weather? Am I going to be outside? Am I going to the park? Whatever it happens to be. But if you have a pair of Lunas, then you're pretty much set. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, great. Good point. What about you, Joel? I reckon I know where we're headed here.
My love of shoes is about basketball. My connection is about the fact that I used to play. And that's what I just, that's what I always loved. My memories is all about, playing the game, watching Michael Jordan. And when I put on a pair of shoes, I just kind of reminisce the whole thing.
Perfect. You want to be like Mike, right?
Well, I did at one point. I mean, that was probably real for me. When I was probably 17 or 18, I was thinking, if I just shaved my head and, if I could just kind of jump just a smidgen higher than what I can today, there's every chance.
Just a smidge. I'm loving it's just a smidge.
Yeah. Me and every other, all the other millions of kids around the world. But it was just a really romantic time to be involved in basketball. And, I don't know, it's just kind of stuck with me. So I put the shoes on, and it just kind of, reminds me of those good times.
What Jordans what Jordans were out when you were like you say, okay, so a lot of people who used to play, we peaked at like 18. I could do numerous types of dunks when I was 18 years old, right? So what shoes were you wearing in the heyday? What Jordans, that sort of ages you, like what Jordans were out around?
My first Jordans were the Jordan 6s, and I had the Carmines, which were the red and white ones.
Oh, nice.
And I used to play in those. And I was probably 17 or 18, so maybe in year 10 at the time. And at that stage, I'd just grown 4 inches in 1 year. So basketball for me was like, it was a real, possibility, and I could do things that I wasn't able to do the year before. So I was really getting into it. And it was at that time that Michael Jordan had just kind of peaked and won his first championship. I mean, those were the shoes that he won his first championship in the Jordan 6s.
And he just become that shoe brand. 6 was when it took off, right?
Yeah, that's right. But before that, for the couple of years before that, I was aware of the 5s, I was aware of the 4s, but I probably wasn't as involved in it. And then suddenly I started reflecting on all of those shoes and just started to realize that that was just everything that it was about for me. So so those are the ones that I get really attached to, is the 3s, 4s, 5s. And it's the whole like Tinker Hatfield thing for me. The 1s and the 2s I like and I kind of understand, but I haven't really gotten involved in those as much.
Yeah, I think you didn't grow up around them. Yeah,
exactly. What about you, Luke? Right. What's your dating shoe when you were playing? What's the shoe that dates you?
Pumps.
I'm going
to D Brown pumps.
Yeah,
D Brown pumps.
That dunk comp when he did that. That was when I reckon they merged. That was when they merged advertising and shoes and basketball. I reckon that sort of stuff is where he did that dunk comp.
Yeah, D Brown pumps, Air Max Barclays, and Converse React Juice as well. Grandma shoes. So, but thinking back, like it was all outdoors, all like either bitumen, or, you'd be wearing these shoes all the time, but they were so heavy. They're so bad for your feet. Like it's probably the reason that I can full force roll my ankle these days and walk away from it and don't feel anything.
None of the ligaments are there anymore.
Nah, they don't exist.
They've all been pulled out.
Yeah, they don't exist.
The Barclays were mine. I love that Barkley. And they had that Velcro. I had the one with the Velcro on the front.
Yeah.
It was that first
the 180s?
The
180s.
Yeah. And they had that Velcro at the front. It was like, these have got Velcro, right? They've still got a million laces. They were fit. Yeah, I love those. I remember playing with a guy. This was I think where I fell in love. And he rolled up. He was our best player. He rolled up with the Air Force Jordan 1s, right? And we were all still playing in Dunlop volleys, and we were whatever we could play. And I think it was one season I played in bloody Tigers, right? Tiger Asics, like, because we just didn't. There was no such thing as a basketball shoe in those days. And Dunlop volleys, right? That was sturdy. They had that. He rolls up in these Jordan 1s, and we're like, what the hell are these? These are phenomenal. What, they go up over his ankle. What the hell?
Yeah.
So that was where I think my interest in. I always remember it because we used to train outside, and he rolls up and they were brand spanking new, and all of us were like, wow. And I think I went home and then never got those, but my favourite, the one I love, is Jordan 4s. Right? We'll talk about those later in depth, but yeah, they were just. If you ask me for a runner, that's the one I need to. That's the only one I can wear. I'm Jordan 4s. I think that was that ultimate of shoes for us. So.
Around that time too, there was all the centers. There was all the big guys that had shoes out. You know, David Robinson had the shoes with the Nike pumps. They actually had Nike pumps with the pump on the ankle there, and then you had Shaqs, even like Spalding, Elijah ones, Ewings, all that stuff. If you Matombos, have you seen a set of Matombos? You couldn't fit a set of Matombos in my front door. They're ridiculous.
Totally changed, hasn't it?
It's amazing.
What center reps them now? Nobody. I don't think there's anyone, is there? No, I suppose is there a centre? So we could debate basketball all night. Yeah, for sure. I love it. So we've talked about our favourite stuff. Is there anything else why we love them? I think we've covered that. Does anyone else want to add anything before we move on to I think it's going to be one of my favourite segments.
There is one more thing, and I don't know if it was a big thing, and this was me and everyone I grew up with at the time, is because the shoes were hugely valuable. Okay, so like I had pumps that were $280 and all this sort of thing. Is those shoes never died. So I remember putting Barclays in the oven to try and resuscitate them after they'd been left outdoors, and they were like third hand, and the smell coming out of some of these shoes. And, I had 6s that were white with blue that were of some dubious origin because they turned up via a friend, and I later found out that he didn't go to the shop and pick those up either. So it's like there was a lot of that going on. There was a lot of personal protection issues going on in those days, that if you wore a certain if you had some nice shoes, you had to be careful about when and where you caught the train. And there was it was a bit different now. So
totally agree. I think I love it. I think that's fantastic. So our next segment, which is, I was going to call it the Luke Gilbert section, but I don't want to give it to him just yet. We're calling this player hate, right? I think what we're saying here is, there's just shoes. You look at them, they're associated with somebody, something that you just don't like of them. Joel, I'm going to start with you, because I reckon I know you too, where we're going to head.
So anything new, really?
I was actually going to say Kobe's, because I know you love your Kobe's.
Yeah, that's true. That goes against the grain a little bit, because Kobe's, Jordan reincarnated. So I don't mind the Kobe's, but like that's what it's for me. Like a shoe that's got like a player, that's got an endorsement of a shoe company. I kind of feel like they deserve it once they've created a legacy about themselves. In general, I just kind of struggle with the whole, being in the NBA for a year or two, suddenly got a shoe deal, and like everyone's talking about how amazing their shoes are, but like the player actually hasn't done anything yet, which for me is a lot of the young players. So I don't get into the KDs, I don't get into the Paul George, Kyrie Irving. I kind of respect him because he's been around for a while. LeBron James, probably the same, but still it's not enough to make me want to buy the shoes.
So you're not lining up for the Zions, mate. So you're not lining up for the Nike Zions.
Well, not unless they're guaranteed to explode your foot out the side of them like they did in his college game.
They got comfort. They got a comfort factor. They expand just for you.
Yeah, they're going to have to. But I think where you're going, Paul, is my hate of rapper-inspired shoes, rapper collaborations. My comment about which position does Travis Scott play. I get it because it's a way of, selling shoes and the kids love it, but I just kind of think, it's got to be about the players who've created the legacy. Those are the guys that deserve the shoes, not Drake, not Travis Scott.
not Drake. Drake's will come out. Won't Drake be soon having the Toronto Raptors NBA title editions? He'll have to. He's got to have something, right?
No doubt.
But hey, just before I get you, Luke, to talk on that, so the backstory with the Travis Scott and Joel and I was desperate for those Travis Scotts, right? I was absolutely desperate for them. I needed them. I'd be messaging Joel going, hey, we've got to get here. They're going to be here. And Joel would just go, but what position does he play? Is he any good? How many points is he scoring? I'm like, they're good. He's like, yeah, but he still doesn't play. Is he coming up? So it was this. So we have this running joke. I'll go to Joel and go, I'm loving these runners. They're amazing. He goes, okay, the question, what position do they play? So that's we have an insider's old bloke's joke. So that's one of them. So definitely. Hey, Luke, tell me about your player hate. I want to hear it. I know this. I've heard this several times in different forums. So.
Look,
come on.
To be fair, the whole Durant thing, but we can't go there at the moment because of what happened. Like, I'm not gonna go on about it. The biggest thing is that all that day, I actually was listening to something today about the whole, the cupcake, people were serenading him with that, and now obviously he's come out pretty badly hurt and basically played himself hardcore by exploding his leg. So I'm going to let him be. What I can't take, and this is a real thing, I've been at Foot Locker several times. We got a House of Hoops in Brisbane, and they line up all the player edition stuff. And I won't touch bronze. They're way, way too heavy and hard to get into. Like, you literally, like, they're built for people of his physique, and it's just like, find someone else like him. So if you see someone wearing them, I really think that they're at a disadvantage. Those shoes are way too bulky, and you're standing way too high in them. Like, everything's wrong about them, I think. So the thing that I really am struggling with is the Paul Georges. There's some amazing colorways and all these things, but he got embarrassed so badly. He got punked so badly in the worst possible way that I just can't bring myself to spend 180 on those sneakers. Like, I'm like, send me over a pair of Lillards or whatever. Like, damn, I am not. It's pretty rough, and it's there's just, like, you think that you're spoiled with all these pairs, and there's so many, but when you really break it down and you look at them, the plus and minuses, all the things, what you could possibly wear, especially if you're trying to use them as a performance shoe that you can actually carry around and get something done and not fall over in, it's slim pickings, for real. Like, it is definitely style over substance at the moment. Like, they used to have a load of, barely their shoes, but all the hyper dunks, like all the Rondo series shoes going back to when the Celtics were relevant, and then lots of different things where there's just basically a low line sole and a streamlined upper with a sock or something, an inner sock with laces, obviously. But that series of shoe is like, to me, that's what people try to play basketball in. A lot of Kobe's are still like that, although they have a little bit something funny happen on the 4 foot there with a little bit of a kick out that makes me fall over. But the common theme is I like falling over in these tennis shoes. But
people are going to think you're like 75, right? It's not geriatric blokes.
I feel like Luke actually works for one of the shoe companies. His knowledge is like, he talks like an insider. He's got all of the lingo.
That's why we got him here. Right? That's why we targeted him. You should see the contract we had to sign him to. This is going to cost me. It's costing my wage for the next 2 years. I just have this one episode. So. Yeah,
but I mean, I've tried out a few Hardens. They end up at the Adidas outlet at, like, some ridiculous rate. So there's a few pairs of Hardens that you can actually put on, and I've played in them. I do have a pair of KD 12s that are, they're mostly just a sole, like an Air Max sole with a sock on top. So they're I can get in those. They're fairly kind of comfortable. I can play in those. But most of the stuff, you're standing up. You're like high, dragging these things around. Like, I'm already struggling to get up. I can't really do that anymore. Kyrie's. Now, this is interesting. I want to talk about Kyrie's because he's made an absolute dick of himself in the worst. He has really gone through the ringer this year. But the kids go nuts for Kyrie stuff.
It's amazing, isn't it, though, this perceptional stuff? And I reckon for us, it's about that. It's almost about, what does this represent, right? The shoe, like you said, the PGs are amazing. They've got so many ranges, but he's not doing too well. So we go, hey, we don't want to fork $180 for. I'm going to say in air quotes a loser, but you know what I'm saying. It's that sort of thing, and that's mine. Is you talked about the LeBrons in just their style and their comfort and that. I just don't like the LeBrons. I loved them when they first come out. I thought they were amazing, but ever since he did the decision and when he went from Cleveland to Miami. I've never bought another pair. Just don't buy them because of that. Right? I think that's, to me, was, hey, dickiest move you could do. Let's get on there. Let's get on there and tell a whole nation. Let's go tell a a whole state that, by the way, don't want to play for you anymore. But hey, this is cool. This is all for charity. And I just went, this is all commercial. So I've sort of lost him. And a really good follow on. This is that thing I was saying that, when Joel, I'll just text Joel about shoes. The Four Horseman shoes, the LeBron Four Horsemans. They came out just under 6 weeks ago. Saw them, looked amazing. Found out they're at House of Hoops in the Burke Street Mall. I'm like, I'm down there. Joel, I'm going to get them. These look amazing. Walked in, I was like, these can't be it. Like you said, they were chunky. They actually just didn't look like they were finished. I said to the kid, are these the Four Horsemen? Is this the final one? He went, yeah. And I was like, oh, does this tuck in? And the flap on the top goes over the side, and it just looked. I don't know. I was trying to say the word was it just looked clunky and it looked chunky.
And that's it because it's style over substance. So I'm looking at those. I know that if you wore those, you'd have to wear high socks because that will dig into your shin when you're trying to walk around, and you'll be like, okay, well now I've got high socks on. I like to wear like low socks and everything, and I got a pair of Hardens like that. I play in them, and it's like, well, I'm going to wear them, but I'm going to have to put different socks on because that, for whatever reason, they designed them, and it's like no one tried them on. I believe that they build shoes now, and people don't even try them on. Like it's and I would be surprised. They're selling them for hype. They're selling them so people can just stick them on the shelf, and it's obvious. They're just repeatedly trying to cash in on hype and cachet and everything, and it's disingenuous. You don't get the real deal with that. Like, yeah.
Well, we're not going to talk about that today, but we've got that for one of our episodes coming. Is this volume, right? The volume of shoes that are coming out is just ridiculous. So I don't, like you're saying, there's just no way these things could go through any testing. There seems to be 15 different pairs every day, through your Instagram accounts. So it's just, so we've got that as a topic which we'll park. Hey, but the best part on those Four Horsemen. So I was still umming and ahhing. I thought I was going to get them, and I went, And then there was this kid. He was about 6'2", and he was with his girlfriend. They're like, yeah, let's try them on. The guy brings them out, and I swear, like you talked about the Matumbos before. That was the biggest thing I'd ever seen. It looked like it was about the size. Like, it was about the size of my thigh, this thing, right? I'm not a small bloke. And I was like, he puts it on, and it just looked, and I just got up and left. I was like, yeah, this is ridiculous. It didn't suit, right? All the pictures looked fantastic, but it was one of those, made for Instagram shoes where it looks great. You go and get it, oh, is this the same shoe? So, yeah, I think that's mine. And so LeBron and his Four Horsemen and his cohorts and his Space Jam too, they can keep themselves. I'm not giving any of my money to him.
No. That's an easy one. Like the Bron thing's an easy one, and you'll like a lot of people. That's a fairly popular opinion. It's different in the States, but they're you don't see too many people around here like just being dedicated to Brons because they're just it's a hard get, man. They're not like you can't really operate in those. They're hard. So
yeah, that's true.
So when we're sponsored by Nike and they start to road test, what's he done?
He keeps talking about himself like he's the GOAT. As soon as he did that,
well, we're talking about shoes. If you want to get into that, I got hours.
Not today. That's our other podcast. That's our other podcast. What's he done? But we'll do that another time.
Because you can talk about Nike.
We'll do that one, and we will address a really important topic at some point, and that is height.
Oh, I was just about to say that. As soon as you said short socks, I was actually going to go, Joel, you still there? Did you hang up?
At some point, we're going there.
All right. Max is writing that down. Our producer, he's writing down sock lengths, right? I think that's a topic for next week.
It's important.
It is important.
I'm not talking about Dwayne Wade invisible salmon pants socks. I'm talking about I'm not talking about
Okay. All right. We're going to move on. We could talk this stuff all night, couldn't we? All right. So we got a topic that we're always going to use near the end to sort of give some context around shoes. This will expose, like Joel was saying, how amazing Luke knows everything and how the rest of us just we're just paddling in the small kids pool. We're calling it hate, rate, and debate. All right. So we've got 3 pairs of shoes, which are going to be up on our Instagram page when we finish this, so you can have a look at them.
Yep.
We're going to have a shoe, which we're calling a hype type. So a hype shoe, something that's come out with all this fanfare. We've got another shoe, which we're going to call the classic. I think you know what we're going to be talking about today. I don't even have to tell you. And then we call a theme shoe. So we're going to have a look at these. So let's start with our hype shoe, boys. It's the Jordan 1 Retro High Travis Scott. Joel, give me
hype
the take.
Indeed. Well, it's a classic shoe. So this is a tricky one for me, Paul, if I'm honest. And I don't just.
I know, I've got you here, haven't I? It's a Jordan.
What position does Travis Scott play? This is a Jordan 1, so this is a classic. It's brown, it's black, but they've put the swoosh around the other way. So, that's really interesting for me. As a shoe, I kind of get it, and I think it's cool. But it's Travis Scott's shoe. It's not Michael Jordan's shoe. And I would be
so we're hating or rating? You got to give me a hate or a rate, Joel.
Nah, I hate it. I'm out. Sorry, Travis. Stick to rapping.
I think he'll be okay. I think he'll be all right when he listens. I think he'll be disappointed when he listens, but I think he'll be okay. What about you, Luke? Right. Where are we at?
It's a straight hate. This is the ones, to be honest, are just a undeveloped version of Air Force One to me. Like, they're just like a more basic, and they've been diluted. You can find them everywhere. Like, for there to be so much hype around this version, that to me is like, it's it like, you can get 95% there for like $29.
Totally.
So it to me, like, it's just such a stretch, and it is literally just based around putting an inflated price and a limited availability on something. It does nothing for me whatsoever. So
preach it, Luke.
Yeah, that's that's a big fat zero right there.
So this was good having you two on our first podcast. I don't think you're going to appear on our second one after that. You two. Now, look, I actually had in my notes about these. I said the Air Force, the Jordan 1. Sorry, not the Air Force. The Jordan 1 availability and the style was the only thing that detracts from me. I love these because of the idea. The way they were marketed was phenomenal, right? That was just, like we said, they're just a standard shoe, but putting a bit of his lyrics on the back, getting them out there, showing those photos of some guy buying 4 million pairs of them. I rate them for that. I think the marketing is good. Probably the shoe itself is probably no good, and I keep looking at them on StockX and, GOAT. Yesterday they were like $1,300 US.
Man.
So I'm not going to buy them, and so I'm going to leave them there. So, but I rate them as just that sort of piece. So if we're talking about a hype shoe, I'm going to rate them. We need to agree to disagree here. So we're going to move on so I can keep you two on this podcast. All right, shoe 2 is our classic. All right, we already know what this is going to be. It's our Air Jordan 4 Retro, and we're looking at the Black Cat version. What about you, Joel? We're going to start with you again because I know where we're headed.
Yeah, not a doubt. And this is a shoe that just always is in style. You wear this with jeans, you wear it to play. It always looks good. And for me, this is the perfect time of the Air Jordans. So, yeah, absolutely right. 100%.
Beautiful. I love it. Luke?
4s are just a straight tick. Like, they're a rate. 10 out of 10 times. The only reservation I would personally have, if I could line those 4s up and there were other retro 4s to pick, the all black is going to make me look slower and wider than I already am. So I'll probably go with something a little bit more adventurous, like a burnt orange or some crazy pink or lilac or something like that. I'll do that. I've actually had old ladies come up to me in the store and comment on how beautiful my bright peach Jordan 12s are. So it's just the all black thing can make you look a little bit short bust, but apart from that, I really like the shoes. They're timeless. So
are those the kind of compliments you're chasing, Luke?
The ones from the old ladies, well, it's
well, you can't go anywhere. You can't run away, right?
No, that's it. I'm at their speed.
He's at their speed. He slipped his shoes on. He's at their mercy.
That's right. Yeah. Look, shoelaces.
I'll round this one out easy. These are definite rates for me, as we talked about before. These are, this is what kicked off this love affair with shoes for me. Is that slow looking, as you play. I used to play in Jordan 4s black, so I reckon that's why I was slow, Luke. Not because I was slow and I couldn't jump, but I think it was the shoes. So now I know what it is, right? Now I understand why I was so slow.
It had to be the shoes.
Why didn't you tell me this when I was 16? I'd be fine, Luke. I could have been in the NBA. We could have been having a different podcast today. All right. Shoe 3 for us is the theme. So this one, we're looking at the Nike KD. They're called PB and J's, which stood for peanut butter and jelly. There's 2 versions of these. We're looking at the original. All right, let's go, Luke. What do you think, my man?
There's a set of these outside. not in the same colorway, but exactly the same shoe, and they're outside for a reason. They don't make the inside rotation. I've got a half court here at home with a glass backboard, and that we use them to scratch up on the on the concrete. So yeah, I can't really rate them. I know that they're a bad fit. They scuff like crazy, performance-wise. Yeah, there are better KDs, put it that way. I think there are other shoes in the thing. I think he started off with some stuff that wasn't fantastic, and actually because of the units and the sort of the way he liked to play with sort of a bit of a lesser more his approach with some of his sneakers, that he actually had some better stuff moving down the line. So I'm going to have to say that this is I'm going to give it the 8.
Hey, goodness. I really am. We do have to find new guests. So I reckon. I'm joking, boys. I like it. I love it. Joel?
I feel like this is going to be a rough session for you then, Paul. This is a flat out hate
really
for
do
me.
it. We need to vet our guests better than this.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Who is this guy, KD? You know, he joined a 73-win team and he's won a couple of MVP finals, but, you know, what? He's got a team that's done all the work for him. Does he even deserve a shoe? I'm not even sure. And it's yellow. And it's yellow.
You know what? We could have been having a very different conversation.
What are you going to wear this with?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. But we could have been having a very different conversation 6 weeks ago, couldn't we? All right. I think we've all got, like you said before, Luke, we're all sort of, he's torn his Achilles, doing really good, so we feel sorry. 6 weeks ago, there was none of that.
No, it was straight venom. I mean. Nobody had any good.
Totally, it's amazing, isn't it?
At all.
Yeah, that's true. At least all the venom's eased up a little bit now. The guy
definitely because he went out and did something. Yeah, everyone thought he was exactly what he said.
Do you know what? Just quickly on that Katie thing, what will be huge if it does come out that somebody said that he had a partially torn Achilles, and they told him that we have to tear it for surgery, and this is a rumor. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I've heard this. This is actually right. This is a good story.
If this is the real deal,
true,
then I wouldn't have a bad word to say about him. For him to come out and play the way he did, knowing if he knows the chance that it could go pop at any minute, like most people, they couldn't perform in those circumstances. He came out, he essentially won in the game in the first quarter. Like he came out there, played fantastically, and then just went down and didn't be a bitch about it. Like if that was like you don't want to see it happen or whatever. Just have Bron go down with a torn Achilles, or if you had like D Wade would literally look like a SWAT team lined up.
That's right.
Shots at him. Like there's just been over the years so much of that.
I've got a very serious question for you two on this topic because I do really feel for KD in this circumstance. I just wonder if he wasn't wearing those terrible shoes and he was wearing Jordan 4s.
I was saying Dunlop volleys. He needed the Dunlop.
Oh, man.
That's exactly. If he had been wearing those when he grew up, Luke, he could have rolled his ankle. He could have torn his Achilles 3 times. He would have been fine.
He would have been fine.
They could have taped it together.
Mm-hmm. They would have been rubber by now.
I'm going to save my Achilles story for another episode, but I've done my Achilles, and I remember the shoes I did him in. Yeah, and I feel for him. You know, it's mine torn straight away, so mine was a bit different to his, but we'll talk about that another day.
That's why you're not in the NBA.
That's why that and wearing black shoes when I was younger, of course. All out now. And being just over 6 foot probably didn't help either, right? So that's probably another one. Anyway, hey, so let me go against you two again. I'm going to rate these, and I'm going to read you something when I did my research on these peanut butter and jellies. This is why I like them, right?
Sure.
So he's gone. So within these, every Nike Kevin Durant 6 has a story or a theme. This gives the kicks character beyond the dope way they look. The Nike KD 6 peanut butter and jelly represents Durant's favorite childhood snack, which was brought to him by none other than his Aunt Pearl. The kicks feature a peanut buttered color upper and jelly colored ascents, and even a swoosh dripping with jelly. So I loved it. I actually loved that story of a shoe.
You like the story, right?
I love the story, right? And that to me is why I rate these again.
So you are a strong believer that his mom is the real MVP then?
Totally. Those peanut butter and jellies that he got. Right?
If I
And
have
she
to
was
hear
the
one
one,
more
right?
thing
Yeah.
about his goddamn. Anyway,
Oh, I know.
we're back here.
I knew you'd love it. I thought you'd love that.
That's sickening. That's god awful.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So we're
He's a
pushing
family
on.
man.
We're
Yeah.
pushing on just under an hour, and Max is
We've got a-
waving his hands frantically, going, "Hey, you guys got to wrap this up."
Yeah.
All right. So what we'll do is we have our final word. I think we've covered a lot today. I'm actually super impressed. I'm really happy we're at. What's the final word or a statement, Joel?
Well, I haven't been convinced on any of the recent shoes, so let's plow on with the next episode and see what you can do for me. But I'm still a retro
I love
man.
it. I love it. Luke, what's yours? What have you cut out of today?
That 40% off is good in anyone's language, so I'm going to stick with that.
I love it. That's fantastic. Look, I think, the reason why we brought this podcast together, and, when we were talking about this, was this. Hey, there's guys like us that we have different needs, We have different needs from shoes. We have different ideas. And we've seen today, I think all three of us have got something very different here. But I love having this chat, right? And this is the chats we've had, over a beer or over WhatsApp, whatever it needs to be. I think this has been phenomenal. So I'm loving this today. So I'm looking forward to this. I think that's it. Yep, he's given me the thumbs up. He's like, we're done. So what I'm going to say is, hey, I want to thank you for listening. So whoever's going to listen to this, I know we've at least got 5 family members who are keen to listen, so that's a good start for us. I want to thank you, Joel. I know we've had cut into your family time today to get this podcast, so thank you very much, my man.
Fun, mate. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. And Luke, your knowledge has blown us all away. I've actually taken about 4,000 notes that I'm getting my buddy copywriter to look up as we speak. A couple of times I had to get him to. I put my arms up and shrugs like, "What's he talking about? Can you look it up for me?" So, thank you so much, my man.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, guys.
No problem. Well, that's it, I think, today. So thank you again. We will definitely be back for another one. Thank you all for listening.
Hey there, Max Ramondetta here, producer of Old Blokes Love Sneakers Too. Thank you for listening to this episode. Today's music was brought to you by Ben and Varson. You can follow him on Instagram at BingsBeat or on Facebook at Ben and Varson Drummer. If you like today's episode or the podcast, please be sure to follow us, like, or even rate us. And follow us on Instagram at Old Blokes Love Sneakers Too. Thank you for listening.